I mean, elk season's what, 7 months away? It's not very far. So there's a lot of things on our mind as far as not just elk hunting, but maybe our gear. You guys are thinking about your packs, you're thinking about shoes. Do I need to upgrade things? Maybe not, maybe so. It seems like we all do. And you know, in thinking of all those things, don't forget about your calling as well, to practice that. You know, how many here have the ElkNut app or have heard of it? Okay, so there's a few of you. And you can see that from the intro video there that we have an app out on how to not just make elk sounds, but understand them. The video clip will show how to make each individual one and actually share with you the message that's being sent by the elk. So if you're going to use the sound, you yourself can educate yourself so that you're actually communicating with them. And before I go any further, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Paul Medel. And my son is right here, Paul Medel Jr., and we own ElkNut Outdoors. And you know, because we share the same passion, we enjoy sharing things that we've enjoyed successful as far as elk hunting. We've hunted elk for 27 straight years over the counter, public land, and we're 100% on killing elk between the two of us. And this is, you know, the same kind of country that you guys are hunting. And so we've gained a lot of knowledge over the years. It doesn't mean we know everything, but we know enough to be dangerous out there. And so what I want to do is share some of the tips and the tactics that we are using to actually put elk on the ground. And one of the biggest things that I've found over the years that has helped us with a ton of encounters and calling them in close is you need to know how to slow play a bull. If you know how to slow play a bull, it is a game changer. You know, nowadays it seems like if people call, you hear them being real aggressive all the time. They're challenging everything, or whether they're starting out with a bugle or a cow call, it doesn't matter. It seems like they're being defensive to the elk all the time. And then you got, on the other hand, you got the guy that he hardly calls at all. He doesn't hardly ever use a bugle. He may use cow sounds a lot because he has that fear of actually chasing elk away if he's using a bugle. And so this is rightly so if you don't know what you're doing with it. It's the same as a guy with his golf game. You take a guy that has a driver and he hooks and slices that thing everywhere. Instead of trying to figure out how to hit it straight and to knock, take the quirks out of it, he puts it away. He pulls out a 5-wood or goes through his irons. He does anything to keep that thing down the fairway so he has a playable ball. And that's what the same thing with people who will shy away from a bugle. Of all the elk we've called, and Paul and I have called over 1,000 bulls to bow range, our bugle has called probably, 90% of these bulls in. It's not the cow call. The cow call has its place, don't get me wrong. We call bulls in with cow calls too, but the bugle is our mainstay. It helps us to find elk, especially when you're hunting a lot of dark timbered country. We're not just hunting a lot of sagebrush where we can do a lot of glassing. If the area warrants it and we can do some glassing, we will do that to spot them. But we find that in most cases, the bugle, all the way from September to the 1st, all the way to the end of the month, the bugle is what gets it done. And I have found that people who eat a tag every year, or most years, and that's not hard to do, is it? When you can see that the kill rate for a bow hunter is around, it can be anywhere from 6 to 10%. So 90 to 94% of people that bow hunt do not shoot an elk. This is every year. This is a statistic that has been around for quite some time. So what are those guys doing? Those 90 to 94% that are being successful. You know, I don't know what they're all doing. I know what we do. And so I'd like to share that information. And when I say slow play a bull, you know, I bet everybody has their own little idea of what slow playing a bull is. And I'm not talking about spot and stalk or sit in a tree stand or sit in a ground blind or ambushing elk on a trail. That's not that's not a slow play in elk. That has nothing to do with it. That has to do with ambushing or being at a destination spot or trails leading to a destination spot. That's that style of hunting. But when I'm talking about slow playing a bull or slow playing elk, it's that elk, that bull, that you may hear one bugle in the morning. Maybe you hear 2. That's it. You hear nothing else. You see, a lot of guys don't have any idea what to do with that bull. And maybe that bull's a quarter mile away, maybe he's 200 yards away, maybe he's a half a mile away. And that's the only sounds he gave you. How do you get that bull? That bull, he's got a possibility, an arrow's going to come at him sooner or later at this time. And the point is knowing how to slow play him. If you were to go and get aggressive and just start challenging bugles and throwing cow calls and everything, and just hope he comes over to you, good luck. Because it's not going to happen in most cases. But there are techniques, method and techniques that you can use that can actually bring that bull into bow range. And one of the things that you have to remember when you're going to slow play a bull is you have to appreciate it's going to take some time. It's almost like a new guy trying to learn how to use a mouth reed. If you think you're going to throw a mouth reed in your mouth and you're going to learn how to use it in 15 minutes to an hour, you're sadly mistaken. It isn't going to happen. Most people want it to be that way, but it doesn't happen. It can take 4 to 6 weeks to learn how to use a mouth reed properly and to then start polishing it up. So when you're thinking of slow playing a bull, you have to understand the type of technique or the method that's necessary per bull, because you're not going to use the same thing for every one. Are we talking about a herd bull that has cows? Are we talking, because a herd bull has cows doesn't mean you can be aggressive with them. And really, in my mind, when I'm looking at hunting elk, my son and I, when we're there together, we have two things that we look at. Can we be aggressive with this bull, or can we not? If not, we're going to have to slow play that bull. And that's how we evaluate each situation. And at this time, I want to show a couple of photos, those photos that we have of some elk. And all these elk have something that they share in common. And these elk right here that he's going to show you, these are, again, these are all over-the-counter bulls taken here in Idaho, actually. All but one of them was taken here in Idaho. And of course, they're all do-it-yourself, public land. And one of the things I can say about them is I called every one of these bulls in for my son, so I was there. I know exactly what took place, how it all happened. And these were the last 4 years. He killed 5 of these bulls, I believe it was. And every one of those bulls, I had to slow play. And how do I know whether I needed to slow play or be aggressive? Because I've made all those mistakes too over all these years. I've learned some stuff now that I'm in my 60s of the things that you don't do and the things that you do. You try to stay with your strengths. And on this particular bull, I'm going to tell you how I called that bull in. Now again, if I would have went to aggressive action, real aggressive bugling, that bull would not be dead. No way in the world would he be dead, just from past experience of knowing what works and what doesn't. And these bulls right here, I believe they were probably September 10th, 11th, or from the 1st, somewhere in there. So they're a pretty early season. And on this particular one, we heard this bull bugle one time, and he was way up the mountain. We were way up the mountain too. We had parked, and incidentally, on every one of these bulls, not one of them is more than 1.25 miles off of a road. None of them. These are bulls that are being pressured. They're being hit by hunters. They're being called to. So how is it that we go in those same areas and we kill these elk that everybody else is going by? And these elk that we killed, that was my first attempt on every one of them. It wasn't like I went back 3 and 4 and 5 days later until I finally got him. First attempt, go in. How? Read the situation. When I got that bull and he's giving me one bugle and I can hear him and he's going to give a call like this, and he's way off, we're meandering, we're going up the hill, still a little bit dark, and I hear him. Nothing fancy, and he's just kind of feeling it a little bit, kind of a bed bugle, and these bulls, a lot of them were right near their bedding area already. And we sat there. I can remember on this particular one right here, we heard him, and of course, like everybody else, a bull up here, and he's so far away, it was really hard to really read what he said, because one of the first things we try to do when we hear a bull is we try to establish what did he say. And that's so, so important. We want to know, is he advertising himself? Is he giving a location bugle? Was there a Roundup bugle? Is he talking to other elk? Was there a lip ball bugle where he might be trying to round his cows up because of a nearby intruder bull? And in this particular one, it sounded like a lazy bugle from his bedding area, or not very far from it. It was really nothing intensive about it that told me that he had a hot cow around. Nothing. And so we didn't say anything. We kept going up the mountain. And we ended up getting a little above the bull accidentally. We had to come back down because we didn't know where and still hadn't called. Didn't know where he was. He actually gave a second bugle at this time, there was quite a span apart. We snuck around. We ended up getting under the bull basically under to almost even with them. And this is probably, what, an hour and a half after daylight now. And it took a while to meander and get up through all this country. We ended up covering probably, I'm going to say 900 feet of vertical feet to get up to where we thought he might be, because he never called again. And so I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, man, maybe I should try to get him to say something. But no, I'm not going to say anything, because he's not in that mode. He's not advertising himself. But he just kind of gave that location bugle. You'll know the difference when a bull's advertising himself. You'll hear him give those types of lazy type bugles from the same spot. He hardly will move. He's in the same general vicinity, and he's trying to attract other elk, other cows to his position. He's not out looking or in search of. He's trying to draw them to him. And so you'll hear him bugle many times every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but he's pretty regular with it as he advertises his position. He's not walking around in search of, like a bull who's trying to locate other elk and trying to find them. He will walk and move. He's in search of, looking for these other elk. Just as if you were looking for somebody, that your buddy was out there and you can't find him. You don't stand right there and call and have no response. You keep moving until you hear and find Joe. Where the heck are you? And that's what you're doing. And that's what a bull's doing with a location bugle. But when they hole up, that's the difference between a location and an advertising. They're very repetitious in their sound in one area, and no other bulls are answering them. He's doing it all on his own. So we know that there's nothing hot around there, and other bulls are competing for a hot cow. So in this case, this guy let us know approximately where he was. And I remember right, because this one was like 4 years ago, this particular bull was probably 250 yards, 275, and we tried to get to him, and you can see the country. Check out the background. And if you noticed on all of them, we were hunting a lot of dark timber, really bad country. And so, in other words, you can't just walk through and walk up on him and say, I'm going to sneak up through there and he'll never know I exist. No, way too noisy. Tons of downfall in there. And so I knew I had to bring this bull to us. I knew that no matter how long it took, I had to get him over there. And so I was going to play with this bull. So I'm going to set the table and try to coax him out of curiosity. And what am I going to do? I am trying to let him know that I have a hot cow. Eventually, but I got to do it slow. I have to be very slow to show defensive action, because if there's a hot cow in the area, does the hot cow have a specific sound that she will use to let another bull know it's time for her to be bred? No. They make no sound. Zero. But for many years, a lot of us thought they did, but they do not. The cow makes no sound. They make a lot of sounds. But you hear estrus buzz, and I use a contact buzz now as far as the term to try not to sway people one way or the other or confuse them, because a lot of those sounds, you're going to hear them in May, June, July. I have elk making all these types of sounds during those time frames, non-breeding months. So how do you know when there's a hot cow? The bull tells you. And we've learned this years ago. The bull lets you know when there's a hot cow present, and he becomes defensive. If a bull has cows in September and there's no hot cows in that group, you'll notice he'll let other bulls walk right in amongst them. He could care less. But when a cow starts showing signs of estrus, that's when the bull becomes defensive in his attitude. His emotion changes in his bugle to where now he has a more aggressive state. And so that's what we look for. In this case, this bull did not show any of that, so I knew I had to play with him, draw on his curiosity, and make him think I had the hot cow. And so the way I did that was, we set up, my son was probably, 20 yards away. When we hunt thick timber, we do not get far apart. 40 yards is an eternity for us. Most of the time, we are very close. I can see him, and if he's calling for me, he's like right here, I'm right there. And the caller always makes sure he gets in a position that he can maneuver or move around. If he has to redirect the bull, he's able to move. If he needs to retreat. So as the caller, it's a very important position that you have. The shooter also has to be on his toes, because you never know where that bull might come from. And he may have to reposition himself. So as a shooter, he is sitting there waiting and evaluating everything. And in this case, this bull did not say anything for a while. I got in there, and what I did was I gave 2 or 3 very soft cow sounds just to plant the seed. And I know I almost called him in quicker than I'm explaining it. But the thing is here's the sounds I used on him. That was it. That's all I did. I let him know. And when I'm hunting elk, I try to envision all this. And what I'm doing is I'm sitting there, my son's up there, and if things don't happen quick, you kind of get fidgety a little bit. But I'm sitting there, and I'm envisioning when I did that, the bull kind of has to give that. I know I got his attention, even though I can't see him. This bull's still 200 and something yards away. That's as close as I can get. It was a wall of willows. You could not get in there at all. Nothing. Way too thick. So I decided I'm going to slow play the bull. So after I give those cow sounds, I waited about 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds, and I started raking a tree. I just started raking and raking and raking, but not violent. I want room to grow if I need to. So I started raking and raking a little bit. I let a little bit of stomping. I like making some voice sounds, as I was doing it, letting him know that I have a cow here I'm displaying from. And my voice sounds are kind of that's about all. And believe me, he can hear all that. You don't have to be fancy and throw out 3-note bugles all the time or challenges. And all I'm doing is letting him know that there's a bull right there and he's displaying for that cow. Well, a bull knows during September, when he's displaying for a cow, he's showing excitement over her. He's showing interest. Why? Because she's either in estrus or she's nearing it, starting to drip or starting to leak, showing signs she's got the scent. And so all of a sudden, he starts showing this activity of displaying for this cow as he courts her. I'm planting the seed in this guy's head, trying to get him to buy that I'm a salesman over here, that I have a cow that's possibly coming into heat. And so I played with the cow sounds a little more, rustling around like we're moving around myself, like there's 2 elk moving, and I started raking again and raking. I threw a few more cow sounds out, and probably 15 minutes goes by, absolute dead silence. But I've seen it before, and I know that they can come sneaking in like that. I would say 15 to 20 minutes, I traded off. I probably only called maybe 4 or 5 times, I shouldn't say call, but with the cow sounds and the raking, and I did not bugle at all at this time. All I did was keep playing that out, playing it out. And about the 20-minute mark, roughly, I can hear the willows moving. And I can actually, they're tall, some of them are as tall as that ceiling, and I can hear a little bit of movement and see a little bit, and I'm like, I think he's coming. So I backed up just a little bit, and I saw a tree laying down, a deadfall, and I got behind it, and I'm laying on my side, and I'm cracking a few of the limbs, trying to give him a direction. And my son is up here. He's up to my left a little bit, and the bull's coming this way. We're on a bench. It goes down like this, probably 40 yards, straight down, and to another bench. And all of a sudden, I see the bull kind of coming real slow. He's not saying anything. And he's coming. And all I can see is brush moving. And all of a sudden, I see Paul get up, and I'm like, that bull's going to get around us. And the wind's kind of going down. That bull's going to try to get around us. Well, fortunately, he was smart enough. He could hear and see. And he jumps up, and he runs about 15, maybe to 20 yards down the hill, trying to get to where he thinks that bull might come out, which was a very smart and aggressive move. He didn't just wait and hope things happened. He got down there and moved around a little bit. I moved up a little bit more, trying to get the bull to pull over to me. And now the bull bugles. He gets right over there, and he gives a Roundup bugle for that cow to come over to him. And so it sounds something like this. That's all he does. He gives that short little bugle, and he was actually answering my cow calls, and he's trying to call her over. And that's what they call a Roundup bugle, of course. Come on over here. He's not trying to call the bull over. He's trying to pull that cow. Why? Because he wants to scent check that cow. He wants to see if she's coming in. And so as he slips around, he bugles down in there, and now I see his antlers coming up. He's coming up. He's actually between us. I see my son over here, and I'm over here about 35 yards from him now, and I see the bull dancing. I can see his rack coming. He's just under that bench. He's like this coming on a side hill. And as soon as he does, I see Paul's drawing his bow, and I'm thinking, he's going to shoot. He's going to shoot. Is he going to shoot? And I don't see anything. So I turn around, and I cast a bugle behind me. And as soon as I do, all I hear is that bull taking off running. Oh, no. So I start bugling, trying to stop the bull. I'm thinking, man, he doesn't even see the bull to shoot this. What is he doing? And so I look over at my son, like, what's going on? And he goes, tsh, and I shot. He goes, I got him. I'm like, what? So I walk over to where my son is, and he points down the hill, and you can see his rack sticking straight up out of the trees, and that bull maybe went 40, maybe 50 yards. But you see, I didn't get it, but this was a 20, 25-minute call. That's what I mean by slow playing, is I just kept working him with very little sounds, what he would accept. Not go in there and just hammer him. And if I bugled and cow called and he didn't say anything after 5, 10 minutes, I walk away thinking, I blew him out of there. Or he's not interested, or who knows where he is, and you move on for another bull. And that's what most people do. They do not give it enough time. You need to be confident that your calling will raise enough curiosity that the possibilities are very, very high. Like I said, that was 4 bulls one day going up at him at a time. And matter of fact, those 4 bulls, there's 5 total, but 4 of those were killed within, 200 yards of each other. All off the same one little area. We know this bedding area that they like to be into. And so every single one of those bulls had to be called in a very slow manner. And so give yourself time, because a lot of times we want that bull to just bugle and scream and let us know he's coming in and raise that excitement. But other times you're going to get that bull that just doesn't say much at all. But be confident that he is slipping in. And it is nicer when they're bugling their way into you and you know what they're doing, and it's easier to stay alert and whatnot. But when they're not, don't think they're not coming, because we call so many bulls in that don't say anything, especially early season. But we're confident that with enough calling and with and presenting the fact that I have a possible hot cow there, that it gets them, it just gets their goat. They got to come up and they have to check to see if she's hot. And so I can remember when we called that pretty nice bull in. Go over to that video clip. And on this one here, I'll give a little bit of what happened here. On this one here, we had actually heard this bull off of a dirt road. And he was about, I would say he was probably 150, 200 yards from us. It was still dark. It was Paul and I and my grandson. And that bull right there, we heard him bugling low. Well, we'd seen this story before with some of these bulls that you can contact while it's still dark, is they just start heading up. Even if you don't call to them, they just start heading up toward their bedding area. And so we decided we were going to follow this bull, and we ended up going roughly, I would say 1,500 to 1,600 feet. It was straight up, and it benched here and there, benched here and there. It took us over an hour. And at 2 times, at 2 different points, we saw this bull from a distance, so we glassed him. This bull here, it was kind of an in-between of an aggressiveness on his part to a slow play. It was kind of an in-between. And what I talk about aggressive, a lot of times we'll get in an aggressive situation when there's a hot cow, and I go in there, and I can just lip ball that bull real fast. And when I do, and I get close enough, I can get under 100 yards and lip ball him, that guy is usually going to commit, and he comes storming in. That's an aggressive action. It takes very little, and he's in there. I mean, sometimes it's seconds. We have a bull right on top of us. Other times a couple minutes, no big deal, but it's all pretty fast. This one was not like that. It was kind of in between. This was probably a 10-minute one. And just to give you a preview of, you're going to see what happens here. We're all coming up the hill, and we can tell we're making ground. We're catching this bull. We have not called to this bull. We are trailing him. He is bugling his way to his bed. You've heard bulls do that before. And we never saw a cow with this bull. We could just see him going. We knew this was a good bull. This is a 325, 330-inch bull on public ground. Yes?
You say he was lip balling?
No.
What did you say he wasn't doing?
No, this bull, he was just bugling his way to his bed. No, he wasn't lip balling at all. If he would have been lip balling, I knew he had a hot cow. There was no question in my mind. He would have had something going on there. No, he was just basically bugling himself up, advertising himself all the way to his bedding area. Nothing answered this bull, not one elk. So see, this shows you that he could be, location bugle. Well, you can get the mixture. There's really not a difference in sound between location bugle and advertising. It's just a matter of how much is he doing it. This particular bull was on the move, but we knew he was going to his bedding area. So we followed this bull's sounds more than anything until we got some eyes on him through the binos. Like, oh, wow, that's a pretty darn good bull. And we were doing it for our grandson, but we were like, dang, we want to shoot that bull. I mean, how many bulls do you see like that? And so anyway, of course, we don't do that. So we head on up the mountain. We finally get to this bench. What you don't see right here is this mountain comes down, it benches out, and goes down like this. So I stay down below on this, and I'm probably 80, 90 yards from where those trees are, down below. And I hear the bull bugle up there. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to draw him out. I need to try to draw him down that mountain right here. And so what I do is these guys, Paul and Tanner, run up, and they're over here. They get up on top of that bench, and I'm going to try to bring this bull down where I'm down below it. So what I do is I start out with not just some cow calls. I actually got kind of, a little bit on the radical side, just kind of out of nowhere. Because I knew that basically this bull he was going to be desiring some cows. And I was already planning ahead that if this bull did not commit fast enough, I was going to have to show some defensive action from a real bull. And this could possibly get him to commit. And so that was my plan. And so as I started cow calling, this bull answers instantaneous. And I knew immediately that the game was on. He could have just went quiet, nothing. And I knew then my work would have been cut out for me. I would have had to work him and work him and work him and work him to convince him to come where he just came from. And a lot of elk don't like doing that. They don't want to come where they just came from because they didn't see anything on the way up. But this guy fired right off. And so I immediately cow called some more, letting him know I heard him. And that's one of the best things I like to do. When a bull bugles my cow call, I want him to know that I heard him. And so I answer him right back immediately. And so, it's a communication thing. It's like if you're yelling to your wife and she doesn't say anything, nothing. And dang well she hears you. You want a response back. So there's an interaction there. So that's one of the things I do right there is to make sure I answer him immediately when he calls. If I heard another bull answer, I would not answer that bull. I would completely shut up. I'm not going to cow call him. I'm only going to cow call this bull here. That's my target bull. And so as soon as he did, I started kicking rocks and rolling. I started to rake the best I could with what limited stuff was there. And I immediately challenged the bull to let him know that I did not appreciate him calling that cow. So that defensive action showed to him that I have a cow coming into heat. The same as if it would have been him with the hot cow. And I would have bugled, he would have came unglued at me telling me to stay back or else. See, a challenge bugle is to stay back. Do not come any closer. It's a warning. Location bugle doesn't do that. An advertising bugle doesn't do that. A Roundup bugle doesn't do that. So that's what he threw at me. And as soon as he did, I was waiting for him. I knew he was going to do it. I knew immediately he was going to tell me he did not like the fact that there was a bull right on top of her there. And so as soon as he did, I just hit him right back, kind of a... And I just hit him real fast like that, and I could no more and got it out there, and he cut me off. Then all of a sudden, I start cow calling him, trying to immediately throw the cow call back in, and this is where you'll see it happen. The video says the rest. So you can hear me cow calling them. That is a pretty nice bull, though. So you can see, so all I did when I knew he was coming down, because I heard his bugle up there, I mean, it sounded much closer than what you've seen in the video, is right when I started a cow call, I knew he just kind of settled him down, bring him in, and then what was he going to do? Most likely he was going to stop and look for her. And so basically that's what he did right there. But just kind of giving you an idea, that was kind of an in-between slow play type of a bull section right there. And again, these are all just, over the counter, public land, so there's not like these bulls don't see any hunters either. I mean, they're there. But as simple as it sounds, I mean, does anybody have any questions where they think I should have done something different or you would have done something different? I mean, I'd like to know. Does anybody have any questions about that? None? What's that?
Did you kill him?
Nope.
You missed that one.
I was going to get to that. He shot the bull, and he actually, if you look at that video, it's really hard to tell where he hit. Where do you think he hit?
High.
High what? Okay, so he would think he hit him high in the back. It took us, we had to actually take that and take it home and put on a 60-inch screen and slow it down to nothing to see what happened. So who else wants to take a guess? He's way off.
Low, very low.
Where?
In the brisket.
Low in the brisket, okay. Another guess? Where do you think? You saw, back it up. Can you show it again? Let him see the arrow. Take a real close look at where this arrow's going.
It's really hard to see what happened.
Okay, here it comes. Here it comes, right there. Boy, you guys had all the guesses we did. Where the heck did he hit this thing till we slowed it to nothing on the television. And he actually caught him right under here. This guy over here is right. He caught him real low in the brisket, hit him right. I mean, the arrow was laying there with like just flesh on it. You didn't do anything. I mean, it barely had. I had a little bit of blood on the broadhead, and I mean nothing on the shaft whatsoever.
How old was Tanner then? Grandson?
14.
Yeah, he's like 13 or 14.
13 or 14. Yeah, and just before that, we actually edited the video. Right when Paul said he's 38 yards, Paul says, "Don't shoot yet." And you can hear it on the video, but we didn't want it to be too long. But he says, "Don't shoot yet." And all of a sudden, twing! And because Paul knew that bull was going to keep coming. He was not done walking. But, at 14, he just thought he could make the shot, and he didn't. And fortunately, we ended up tracking that bull right to his bed. We ended up having just little drops, and it took us about, 4 hours. He took us all the way to the top. We ended up jumping him, and he took off like nothing whatsoever. And just to make sure that he was not, that we were mistaken, because at that time, you have to remember that we did not know where he hit him there. It happened so quick. And we had, obviously it took the video. On that screen, we were dissecting that thing, and we could not tell where he hit. So obviously you have to, you have to put the legwork in and see if he's down somewhere or you can finish him off. But anyway, the one that's really good, they're all good hunts. Every one of them have their own story. One of the ones I want to talk about is the longbow bull. And I know probably a couple have seen it, but show him this one here. This story, to me, was one of the most exciting hunts and call-ins I've ever had. And we call in a lot of elk. That's this year's bull right here. On this one here, this was in the same vicinity as the first one. We had decided to come on up and check the area out to see if there were any elk in it, because we didn't know if there was any elk there or not. As we start walking up the mountain, we could hear a single bugle from that bull. That was all we heard, was one single bugle. And this bull right here was probably, a little over a quarter of a mile still up above us. And he bugled one time. We moved up. We got to where we figured we could get within a couple hundred yards of this bull. And he wouldn't bugle. So we sat there. We didn't bugle either. We sat there, and I thought, well, okay, we're going to wait this bull out because we're not sure where he is. This is what we're talking about, slow playing a bull. Don't just leave the situation and walk away because you think nothing's going to happen out of it. So we sat there almost 10 minutes, and he finally bugled. So now I wait. Don't say a sound, nothing. Just sit there and wait. Can't get much closer. It's just way too thick and brushy, too much noise. I let maybe 7-8 minutes go by roughly, so you can see time is going by, and I send out a bugle of my own. Bull doesn't say anything. I knew he wasn't. He wouldn't say anything. If it was, it'd been luckier than heck. So I sent out a bugle, letting him know there's a bull down there. That was it. So now we wait again. Minutes go by. Probably again, 8 minutes, maybe 10. I didn't time it, but it seemed very, very long. And all of a sudden he bugles again. Same spot, hasn't moved. So I wait. Same thing. Another 7-8 minutes, I send out a second bugle. So now I'm waiting for him to bugle on the next one. So I'm figuring, okay, the next time he bugles, I'm going to cut him off, and I'm going to see what his frame of mind is like. And so I wait on the third bugle, and when he bugles, I immediately call right over the top of him. But I didn't do it big. I did not go to the point where I had the point of no return. I made sure I was kind of and that was it. No big growl, not lip balling, not anything like that. 30 seconds after I do that, he calls back. So I'm saying, okay, now I have a chance with this bull. See, he already took it from 7, 8, 10 minutes all the way down to 30 seconds. So now I throw out a few cow sounds, and I start raking, almost similar to the other bull. And I start raking and raking. I threw a couple just super soft cow sounds. Rake a little bit more. Stomp the ground. Maybe give a little voice bugle, just little stuff. The bull's not saying anything. Nothing. I would say we're still 200 yards away, roughly, 225. He's straight up the mountain, but you can't get through it. And so I need to bring him to me. And guys, this is a long way to bring a bull. Most of the time, you're trying to get in that 100-yard realm for best odds. And so I sit there and wait as I'm raking, and all of a sudden, this bull bugles again on his own without me bugling. And so now I know I'm getting him fired up. So many times when you get a bull like this that's really lethargic, it's like a temperature gauge in your car. It's cold when you first get in, and that's where that bull is. I need to get him like this before I can get aggressive with this bull. And I know it. If I would have just went right out and just started hammering away as he bugled me that one time and just kept at it, no way we would have got that bull. No way. That bull would have been long gone. And so the point is that I'm playing him according to his attitude and slowly raising his temperature. And this is what we have to do. I bet you with 75-80% of the elk we kill is we have to play them until we can finally get them into, and he's shooting a longbow. So you can't shoot out there with no 40 and 50 yards. You got to get him right in tight. And so as this bull, we realize he's starting to come in. Paul slips up, and he's probably 30 yards from me, and it's super thick, and I cannot see him at all. And so I'm down, and I'm raking this tree, and I'm still raking, and I'm getting a little bit more violent with it. I'm really planting that seed with the cow sounds and with the raking, letting him know that I am being defensive with this cow. I do not want this bull coming over here. So now when he bugles me, I'm cutting him right off. I'm letting him know I don't want you anywhere near this cow. And of course, this is sending the message that I have a cow coming into estrus. And that's what they're all waiting for in September. And so give them enough time, they will finally get on their feet, come over to check you out. And so this is what I do. I play that scenario out. As a matter of fact, on this bull here, he just kept holding up. But I did notice he was on his feet toward the end. After about 15, 20 minutes, I noticed this bull started coming down the mountain because one of his bugles was so much closer. And I'm like, whoa, this bull can't be more than 50 yards, maybe 60 yards from Paul, but he can't see. It's too thick. And so as I'm working this bull, I start going to some of the contact buzzes, which the cow is telling him to come down the mountain. She wants him to come to her. And so I started going... And I noticed the minute I did that, he just lit right up on. He absolutely just went ballistic, started bugling. And as soon as he did, I bugled right over the top and cut him off again, telling him to stay back. And when I did, I ran down the hill about 10 or 15 yards, because I'm on the downhill side. I'm assuming he stayed right where he was. And as soon as I started raking and getting a little more violent, I'm stomping him, kicking, I hear him bugle like just right there. And I look through the trees, and I can see his antlers, and I can see his body. And I'm thinking like, God, he's got to be right there. He's got to be. You got to shoot this thing. And so, because I'm seeing flashes of the bull, he literally comes straight down that mountain. And all of a sudden, I did hear the shot. And all I could hear was the bull crashing, running. And so, I'm bugling like crazy, trying to slow him down, hoping that he won't run very far so the blood track is short. I go over to my son, and his head is hanging like this, just shaking his head. And I'm, and it's like, crap, what happened? Dang it. I mean, it took forever to get him to that point. So he says the bull was roughly 25 yards away. As he came through, he stopped broadside, 100%, and there was a few of the willows in the way. He said, but I'm pretty sure that I could slip it through there with no problem because he was 100% broadside. And he said 3/4 of the way through to him, he saw his arrow catch one of the limbs on the willow, and it hit the bull. It ended up, what we found out was it hit him right in here and blew through, somewhere, it might have been in the front part of it, blew through and was stuck in this leg. We did not know that. We knew he was hit. So he tells me he hits the bull. I'm bugling, trying to stop the bull. To no avail. We go up. We only stay there maybe a couple of minutes as we discuss what happened. I go over to where he says, and we're both searching. We find it's a cedar shaft. He's shooting a wood arrow. And there's a shaft laying on the ground with about this much wood gone on it, shaft, and with a snuffer broadhead. So about this much of it was totally gone off of it. And we're like, crud. But there's blood there. So we're like, all right, you got to track the bull. You can't just leave him. You can't just not do anything. So now we start tracking the bull real slow. And we're going up, and it's going completely away from where we knew the bull kind of ran away from us. We could hear him crashing away. And we're going there, and there's kind of, there's blood, and then it's hit and miss. Well, you can see the brush. You don't see the ground good. So you're trying to catch every little thing that might have blood. I mean, we're walking like 15 minutes, maybe 15 to 20 minutes as we're meandering up. All of a sudden, the bull bugles above us. And we're like, I said, that's the bull. I mean, we heard him bugle enough, calling him in. That was his voice. That was him. And Paul says, he goes, I guess I didn't hit him in the lungs, so that's pretty obvious. And I said, no, because he ain't going to bugle like that. And so we start, instead of going after him or doing anything, we keep following the blood, just making sure to see if it starts going back that way. And we follow maybe another, 5 or 6 minutes, and he bugles again. It's like, what the heck? And he bugles like a third time. And we're following the blood, and it was like he was right where he came from originally. And so as we're following the blood, probably close to at least 20 minutes goes by. Paul looks at me as we're following. He goes, hey, you hear the cows calling? I said, no. And my ears aren't that great anyway. He goes, no. He goes, I can hear them. There are cows calling up there. So, man, I am straining to listen. And I could hear them all. I mean, it was just, meow, meow. And so all of a sudden, both knew there was cows up there with them. And I says, wow, I mean, that's a game changer. There's cows up there. He's obviously healthy enough to keep bugling. I'm going to try to call this bull right back down. Let's see if we can kill him and get him down a second time. And, of course, it was like, yeah, right, coin flip, probably not going to happen. And so, but we got to try it. So I thought, here's what we're going to do. I said, once I bugle, and I'm going to give him a lip ball, I'm going to try to call his cows away, because I had him amped up. I mean, he was bugling and screaming and bugling when he came down and Paul finally shot him. And so as he goes, as we go up, Paul sets up, and it's, like I say, super thick. He gets about 20, 25 yards from me. I'm over here. And I said, as soon as I lip ball him, we're going to know what's taking place. This bull is either out of there or we have a chance if he bugles over the top of me. Because he knows when I'm bugling, I'm going to call his cows from. That's what I was doing. I was trying to call his cows away to do anything to up my odds. Throwing a challenge bugle and telling him to stay back or else. It wasn't in the cards unless he bugled back to me. So that was my thought. I'm not going to location bugle. I'm not going to Roundup bugle. I'm not going to challenge him. I'm going to give him a lip ball and try to call those cows that I now know are there. I never knew they were there before. And so as I head up, I get to a tree that I can start raking. My son goes over there. I don't see him at all because it's just so thick between us. And I told him, I says, after I call, if some action happens, I might move up to the next set of trees and try to pressure him really fast. So if you hear my calling up here, try to stay with me as we parallel up the mountain. And so that was our thought process. So as I hit that first tree, I just start raking and I hammer him. You know, I mean, I just kind of give him a good... And that's what I hit him. I just hit him really hard. And as soon as I didn't even get that bugle out. That guy cut me off so fast. I mean, made me sound like a wimp out there. I mean, just, he was so worked up that quick, you know, just from the previous encounter. And as I did, I started raking. I hammered again with that lip ball, just hammered again, trying to pull the cow down, which I didn't want the cow. I just knew he would be a defense mechanism and want to run at us. And as soon as I did, I ran up a little bit more, and I'm assuming he's coming up. I didn't know what he was doing. I run up to the top of the hill a little bit more, and I bugle again and lip ball again. As soon as he bugles, I challenge him this time because now he's right there. Now I'm telling him to stay back from my cow that he knew I had down there. So I immediately just challenged him. So, you know, I'm playing the game with him. And when I did, here he come down the mountain. He comes straight down, and now I see this bull 30 yards away from me. He comes in broadside. Well, my son had moved up in there, and as soon as he did, he came walking out broadside again, coming right down toward me as I'm hidden behind this tree, which I had enough cover because I could see the bull, but he couldn't see me. He might have seen movement, but he was sold that it was a bull. And as soon as he came to that point, Paul was able to shoot him with a second arrow. And so I heard the arrow go, and I could hear contact. And when I heard that hit, I knew that that was a solid hit. So as soon as he did, I started bugling like crazy, and I ran over to my son, trying to get a read of what happened. And he just points up the hill, and I could see the bull. I could just see him still moving, and he rolled about 3 or 4 more times and slanted up against a tree. So what a deal that was, to be able to call that bull in a second time and actually get it done. And yes, that arrow, we found the first arrow had went through him right in here and stuck. And that bull, when he came in, he didn't even think of limping, nothing. When I saw him coming in and pacing and screaming at me, he no more than did a thing, 0. So, you know, those things are tough. They'll really surprise you. Yes?
So you said you were working with a lip ball first, right? And then you went into challenge mode. Can you just, what's the distinction? Can you just do the two?
As far as the emotional sound?
Yeah, I mean, can you make the two, like shift from lip ball into the challenge? Can you do that?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge bugle is a non-lip ball, okay? It's, what a bull's doing is he's changing emotion. It's like if you are talking to somebody and you are trying to show some more emphasis or seriousness, you raise your voice and, you know, you may say the same thing, but you're putting a lot more emotion behind it, more seriousness. And so that's what a bull is doing, because all the sounds that bulls are making are their bugles. They're all bugles, but they change with the intensity or that emotion. And again, just to answer your question, if I was doing like a location bugle, just to show you the difference in the emotional change. That would be my locator. I'm looking for elk. I'm trying to get them to respond back to me and give away their position. Now, if I was going to go to more of a challenge, I'm going to make it a little more fierce, even though I'm still bugling. And that's where I'm going to go straight into a challenge. Now, if I'm going to do a lip ball bugle, I'm going to buzz the reed, and you guys know what I mean. I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to do that with a challenge. When a bull does that, he's really showing a lot more emphasis, a lot more emotion behind the sound. He's really getting worked up. In this case, when a bull does that, let's say a bull was being challenged or another bull came in and was trying to call his cows away. When a bull is doing that and he's trying to call another bull's cows away, a lip ball, depending on how fierce he's doing it, can be a twofold message. He can be trying to call his cows and warning that bull to stay back. When you're cow calling, how many times have you had a bull use a Roundup bugle to try to give you a direction for you to come up? And you haven't even bugled him, but you hear him kind of go, and you'll hear him do that, and he's rounding you. He's trying to tell you to come on over here. He's not challenging you, telling you to stay back or he's going to kick your butt. That's not what he's doing. And so you're trying to read those different bugles, whether it's a Roundup or the lip ball. But when a bull's coming in and trying to call the cow, and if she's not coming in fast enough, even though all you did was a cow sound, you can hear a bull give you a lip ball. But he's not going to crank it off to where he's just ridiculous. He might just show you the urgency. He may give you a short one like that where he's showing you, I want action right now. And you know, that is where, when we started out, when you check the app out, and the ElkNut app that we came out, we actually go over every one of these elk sounds, whether it's a cow sound or a bull sound. And we show you what it sounds like from a real bull, from me, and show you the message that's being sent, whether it's chuckles, whether it's grunts. We got Roundup bugle. We have all the various cow sounds. And then you see where it says the tips. In those tips area, if you click on the tips, it will now give you what does it mean when I hear that sound? So if you go to a lip ball and you click it, you're going to get the written content of basically real quick what the lip ball is saying, what the message is being sent by a bull or a hunter. Now if you go and you can see all the written content, or you can say, when do I use this sound? And you'll notice that there's also more information, that written content that will tell you and explain to you some of the best times to use it and when the elk are using it. So that when you're doing it, you're not just doing it blindly. You want to know why you're using an elk sound. How many times do we hunt areas that we don't see the elk that we hear? We don't see them. You just hear them. So being able to know the message that they're sending is so important. So it helps us to be able to form a plan, a good game plan of what we're going to do next, how we're going to attack this situation, because we know what he's asking for, or what he's warning, or what he's wanting. We know what's going across his mind. And so it helps us to evaluate and read that situation and make a good, positive move. And I think this is what leads to us. I mean, I would say when we're calling elk, that we call in between 7 and 8 out of every 10 bulls. Now, there's not many people that do that. I talk to a lot of guys. I know a lot of them. And I would say that the average is 1 to 2 bulls they can get within bow range out of 10 to 12 bulls. That is their average. So just think back how many times you've done that and been in that situation. But we actually have a lot higher ratio than that, and it's because of our patience and being willing to slow play a bull. A lot of times, you know, guys are going out there and they're trying to be aggressive with everything, and if the bull doesn't cooperate, they go, I will go find another one. It's too hot, you know, it's pretty warm, the weather isn't good, they're not ready yet, they're not ready. You know, there's always a reason why that bull did not come in, and most of the time it's the hunter. And the reason I say that, even out of the 7 out of 10 bulls that we call, those other 3, something changes, and that's what we'll either back out or there's a reason. It's not like, well, we have no idea what we did wrong on that one. Seriously. I mean, in most cases, we know what went wrong and we know what went right. And when you can get to that level, you're going to find that you call one heck of a lot of elk in. And when you don't, you know what went wrong. It's not like, well, I have no idea. Let's just go find it. You know, really, you're going to be at that level when you start understanding what each sound represents to the elk. And the nice thing about this, if you go, let's go to the audio part. And for those who are unfamiliar with it, if you go to the audio part and you're saying, okay, I want to up my elk game. I want to sound good. I want to be able to do some practice. You notice where it says record and play back your call? So see, now I can actually call. Will that record from right here? So if he pushes record, I want to know how I'm doing on my advertising bugles. I can call, so go ahead and record it. And this is on the app. So now we'll just listen to it. This is on the app. And of course we know advertising bugles are repetitious. So now if we go to where I'm showing it there on the screen where I'm actually doing it, and the reason I'm not showing a bull doing it, and all the other cases there's a bull giving that sound or the cow's giving it, is because advertising bugles are no more than repetitious location type bugles. They're just repetitious over and over from one area, where the location bugle, where they're on the move in search of. You see, that's what the big difference is. And so if we go to, let's just go to a different sound there, Paul, so they can see which one are you on? Yeah, just do the lip ball. Listen to a real bull give a lip ball. Go to the audio. Now that was obviously a real bull. And so now if you want to make a lip ball like that, you can. I usually don't do the double lip ball. You can. But if I want to go ahead and now practice that one and scroll up, and I want to record mine to just see where I'm at with it, that's what I would do. So go ahead. So see, I mean, I could kind of play with it. So see, I can see where I'm at. What do I need to work on? And if I went to cow sounds, I can do the same thing. And that's what's so cool about the app. You can call right onto it and then compare yourself with either myself or a real elk or the cows. And so you can see where you're at in the stage of your calling. Do you need to polish some things up or not? And you know, if you've ever considered something like that, you might want to consider that app. And it's $4.99. $4.99, and there is information that would take you hours to go through. You'll notice every sound has a video on it, which means I have a 30 to 90 second video on every sound in case there's one that you don't know how to make that sound. And so I show you exactly how to make it. And once you're familiar with it, you don't have to go back over, but it is available, especially for newer hunters or somebody who's trying to learn a sound. It's all on. We have glunking on there. We have growls, the reason bulls are using that sound. So, I mean, really, it's all the basic sounds, the most important sounds that you're going to hear in September. So, you know, it's something to seriously consider. And it's this app right here, it's $4.99 one time. You never have to renew it. It's a lifetime thing. You can use it in the woods. You can use it at hunting camp. You don't need Wi-Fi. Once you download it, it's on your phone, and you can refer to it right there in the woods. If you hear a bugle or a cow call and you're unfamiliar, not sure what it is, you can go straight to your phone and listen to them until you hear the one. That's the one I'm hearing right now. And then it'll tell you what the message is being sent. It tells you what to do next. It shows you all the options like you were when he showed you the written content. Every sound has that. I mean, there's so much information on it, and it can't help but make anybody a better caller, better elk hunter, just because of the information that's taken us 40 years to put together. So don't wait to make all the mistakes we did till we finally get to this point. And this thing will help you. It really will. It's actually pretty darn cool for all the information. And we just updated it. It's going to be updated tomorrow. So the additional things, there's a tactics section on there now that's going to show full moon tactics, the times to hunt it, what are the best, the types of methods that we use during that time. It's going to show wallow hunting, mineral licks, water holes. What are the best times? How do you set up on those? And when not to. Best times of the months to use them. And it's just a ton of written information on that. Beginner hunter tips. We have sequences on there where we're in the woods and we do a setup and we show you the calling sequence of a cold calling sequence, advertising sequence. We do a lot of advertising sequences. And I mean, we kill a lot of elk with that. And so we show you, everything is on a video clip where you're going to see us in the woods going through the exact sound sequence, what our setup looks like, how tight it is. We don't want elk to see us when we're too far. You know, we don't want to see elk coming in 100 yards away, 125, 150, because that's where they hold up. And when they do, you're going to hear this. One sound, because they want to see you. That's a nervous grunt, and some call it a nervous bark, but when an elk does that, it knows it should already be seen. The elk that it's heard, or a movement out there that it's unsure what it is. So it wants a satisfying response or a visual when you hear that sound. So we try to eliminate that and make a real tight setup. So we force the elk into search mode that they will come within our range before they can see the source of the calling. And this is great for a solo hunter. If you're tag teaming like a lot of times we do, then we're just trying to make sure that the shooter is in that position to where the bull has to come to that point. And I think that's, one of the biggest reasons why, we put so many elk down. I mean, Paul's 39, he's killed 28 with a bow. And, these are over-the-counter bulls. And so you guys can do the same thing. I mean, you really can. It's just a matter of understanding these sounds. Don't think sounds aren't important. They really, really are. But when you start understanding what each one represents, and if you only learn 4 or 5 sounds, that's all you need to know. You don't need to know them all. You don't have to make all those sounds. You just have to understand what you're hearing out there. And then you can proceed forward with a game plan. Other than that, we better wrap her up and get over there before this whole thing's over. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you coming by.
Just go to the App Store? Yep.
Yeah, right, yeah. And as a matter of fact, the app, if you have an Apple phone, an iPhone, you would go to that app store. If you have an Android, you would go to Google Play.
What's the actual name of the app?
ElkNut. Yeah, you would just go to a search function, put ElkNut in it, and it'll pop up automatically. Or if you stop by the booth, we have a couple of cards over there that actually have you just take a screenshot, it takes you straight to the store, and you can order it at any time. But yeah, so hey, thanks a lot for coming by and participating. Appreciate it.